Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy's back from vacation. We get to talk about the Patriots. Rather than talk about the Patriots the hour, do you just want to talk about the Olympics? My brain, I've been Olympic pilled like crazy lately.
It's been fun.
We are, amazingly, we're, I think, 3 days in, right? 3 days? 3 days in. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm already sweating French gold under like a motherfucker.
Yeah, they came out a little hot. I know some people that took both sides. I know people on both sides of the Canadian gold total. I don't know.
Oh, that's getting there. Don't worry about that.
I think the unders. I think the unders are looser. In that
unders
one.
to lose. Yeah, that one's good.
The U.S. is always like this. We have a slow start, but U.S.
Yeah, almost all our golds come in team sports and athletics, so we tend to pile them up in week 2. And actually, all eyes tomorrow on Simone Biles and the gymnastics and whether or not her calf is right, because we are counting on her for at least 4 gold in the gymnastics. I'll tell you this. Yeah, I had a full-on sweat today going about the French gold again, man. Like there was a little period of time where just avoided catastrophe in the men's mountain biking. Then right away it was into the finals of I think it was the canoe slalom, and a French guy won by 5 seconds, which was like an eternity.
Yeah,
because like just no doubter, just absolute smash win, surprise. Didn't have that on my bingo card. And then I get caught up with how does French get into the final of the archery? Like, for instance, France has never won a medal ever in archery, and here the men's team is competing for gold against Korea. And like they split the first 2, and it's just like, what the hell? Like how is this happening?
I remember betting on Korea. Like I would just parlay the 2 Korean numbers early every year at 5 dimes.
Sure,
because they'd be cheap, and then they'd close at like 1,000 and 1,200.
They should be, and they won today.
And then they just win every year. Yeah.
And then I got caught into the finals of the 73K judo, which I also did not have France medaling in, and they had a guy in the gold medal bout. And I'll tell you what, man, having watched Japan last year and now France this year, I've seen more judo than I've needed to. I still have no clue what's going on. No idea.
Judo's kind of
None. And the announcers were like pretty sure that the Azerbaijani guy was winning, and I'm like,
sure.
How can you tell? I have no idea.
That's the best when you're watching the sport and you can't really tell like with the better team or side is.
Yeah,
I had that. My 3 takeaways real quick before we get into Patriot talk.
Go ahead.
Women's rugby, electric.
Oh yeah, did you watch France USA?
No, I haven't yet. No. I'm saving it. I had a busy day. It was this morning. I couldn't have the
USA's through, by the way, to the quarters.
Yeah, we're looking good.
Semis.
Yeah, we're through to the semis.
Yes, I think New Zealand is going to bash our brains in. I think
maybe. So that's awesome. I watched some men's field hockey. It is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like the worst version of parking the bus soccer for some reason. Like there's so much back passing. It was terrible. I watched for like 10 minutes, saw like 1 shot on goal. Like it's like the opposite of lacrosse, where there's a lot of fun, fast, firing away at the goalie. Like they just struggled. Handball, 100 times better. And then third takeaway is organized religion might have been a bad idea, guys.
You
should just go down that. No, I'm kidding. I'm not though. I've been like, faith is good. Organized religion probably bad. You just want to get people want to just get so mad about everything. Like it's the French. The French are gonna do weird things. Don't get so offended. They've been doing that for 1,000 years, guys.
You're talking about outrage about the
everyone's like, how do you live? I just don't understand how anyone lives their life, gets just willing to get so mad about so many things. There's so much going on in life where I don't have the energy for that.
Do you want to guess the thing that tilted me the most about the opening ceremonies?
The rain?
No. There's a clear tilt. Absolutely tilted me.
Kelly Clarkson.
Honestly, she redeemed herself by having the moment of the whole ceremonies when she was like crying after listening to Celine Dion.
I didn't understand why Peyton Manning was part of it.
Yeah, what the fuck is
like? Because when I turned it on, I couldn't hear. I didn't see any announcers.
Yes.
Suddenly, you hear the voice. I'm like, Peyton Manning doesn't make a lot of sense.
You know what the weirdest part is? He is a pretty good judge about what to take on and what to pass on. I assume, because it seems like most of the projects he tries like are pretty successful. No idea why he or his team said yes to this. Like,
I think you just don't say no to like, oh, fuck it, I'll do the Olympics, whatever. I mean, it's the Olympic version of like the Macy's parade.
Yeah.
Some people were mad that it wasn't just them walking into the stadium. I like the boat thing.
The boat thing was awesome. The boat thing was awesome. The weird French, the terrible French can dancing was awesome. The general weird French vibes were awesome. I personally did really have a great feeling about the fact that they got Rafa Nadal involved in the torch ceremony with Zidane. Like, usually they are super patriotic, like stick to our country's athletes, but he means so much to,
he's
Paris
such a big part of French culture with
at
Roland Garros. That was nice.
Yeah, that was
another highlight is just seeing like you'll never see. And I know, Joker has been a big force more so than Rafa over the last few years, but it's such a cool passing of the torch thing with those two playing doubles, Alcaraz and Nadal. Like, I mean, it's so like cool. Seeing two ghosts of Christmas in the same room.
It's unbelievable. On Philip Chatrier. Oh, it's so good. I really hope Alcaraz doubles. That will be the best moment of the Olympics for me if that happens. Just in general, a couple other thoughts about Olympics, and let's talk Patriots. Yes. Best events so far have been surfing and swimming. The surfing at Chopu in Tahiti is just unfucking believable. Like
the scene is cool, but the surfing hasn't been that. I didn't enjoy it that much. Swimming's better.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
I'm not. I don't know.
You watched the wrong days then.
I guess from like a production standpoint, I'm like, this is all right.
Okay, well the scene is cool.
Yeah, the scenery's awesome.
Perfect. It's perfect background for when you're out there doing work. The swimming's been awesome. Just in general, still waiting for some of the higher, some of the crazier shit. I don't know, man. Everything. It's going to be a sweat. France is going to be a sweat. It's going to come down to the final days, but I think we're on track for about 20. Real quick. Japan over is already home, in my opinion. China under is probably already home, in my opinion.
Yeah,
China has been missing expected goals all over the place.
Yeah.
All over the place. Swims.
At least two swimming medals missed out on already.
2 swimming medals, gymnastics, all around men, shooting. They've given up 2 shooting to
who
Korea.
All around men, me and Drew.
I think China under is home. Australia over is almost certainly home. Korea over might actually already truly be home. I don't remember what their number was, but they're at 5, which is wild. United States is only at 3 right now. I think we're on track for 40. It's going to be a sweat. Britain over is going to be a sweat. They've left a couple on the table, but they finally got things going with equestrian and mountain biking today. Oh, real quick mountain biking story. So this guy Tom Pidcock won gold for Great Britain, and I think mountain bike was 7 laps, and it was actually a cool course. Usually the mountain biking course is a snooze. This was a really good course, and
California should be good for that though.
Yeah, Pidcock passed a French guy. In like the final, like literally coming down, the homes, like the final descent before sprinting for the finish. And he made an aggressive pass around a tree, just got ahead of him where he had priority. And then they touched. And honestly, it was Pidcock who initiated the touching, but because he had priority, they couldn't really challenge it. French guy gets bumped. He has to take his he has to unclip, reclip, and steady, and then go again, and he loses all his momentum. And Pidcock races to the finish. The French were booing him so aggressively. It was unreal because it was a little dicey. It was within the rules, but it wasn't great sportsmanship to bump him. And it definitely swung gold for Great Britain over France. So I was like, yes. But listening to them boo him was incredible, and they booed him all through the medal ceremony. Like they're still booing Tom Pidcock in France, which is amazing. And generally, the French fans have been unreal. Like so much support. It's been quite cool. So
That's
I think
that's the really big thing about the Olympics for me is like it's crazy how there's an event like that. Or even the men's field hockey. Like I was saying that to my brother-in-law. I said, it's crazy how like 99.9% of Americans will never see this sport. Like you have to kind of just time it and get lucky or accidentally catch it during the Olympics once every 4 years. And then there's these people that have dedicated their life to it, and it's just it's not even an afterthought. It's not even a thought. Some of these sports, it's crazy what makes it in. I don't think breakdancing has happened yet.
No, breaking's still to come. I think, but yeah, I think Great Britain's still going to get there, but it's going to be close. Italy's going to get there. I think Canada's going to get there. Germany's probably going to get there. It's no idea yet about Spain. Sweden is in trouble. I think the Sweden under is very, very live. And I think those are all the major countries that had serious medal markets available. Any other final Olympic thoughts, or should we talk Pats?
Well, let's dig in on the worst team. I don't think this is in fact, this might be the biggest gap between 3 and 4 in a division.
I bet you're absolutely right about that.
Absolutely, because it's basically a 3-way tie for first, depending on which book you're looking at, for winner of the AFC East, which is what we're digging into today. And then the Patriots are like 1,000,000 to 1. The Patriots are bottom 3 team, and just about bottom 3-4 team, just about any power ratings you're going to look at. A lot of question marks surrounding them, and like I said, a huge gap between them and that usually our second team we talk about on a Monday isn't a very good team. Where there's a pretty good case that Miami's a top 10 team, at least in some senses of the word, especially once they get healthy. But yeah, this is the first year of post Belichick. We kind of had a little bit of a interstitial between the end of the true dynasty and where we're going to start the actual rebuild. He was clawing and holding on, and honestly doing a pretty good job of what he's always done, is elevating a bunch of guys that maybe couldn't be elevated other places to be a really good defense, especially in the defensive secondary. And it just didn't matter because they never obviously got the quarterback they needed in place. The roster moves were puzzling at the receiver and tight end positions for the last few years. And if you don't put together at least some semblance of an offense, shit just isn't going to happen. So it's been pretty icky on that side of the ball, while Bill still kind of held things together on the defensive side. Now, all the Belichicks are gone. Steve is gone. And I believe I'm sure Brian's gone too. All the Belichicks are off. Steve's doing Washington. I can't remember what college he went to. Oregon?
Stanford?
Someone in the chat. Maybe you guys can remind us. I'm not even going to look this up. But Bill's doing TV, and I don't know. Maybe he'll get another job. Somebody will probably want to kick the tires on that. And we have a crazy.
You're right. He's Husky D coordinator now.
Husky. There we go.
Old
we have
Steve.
Crazy young offensive, just coaching staff in general. Jerod Mayo's 37. Was the youngest head coach until Mike McDonald got hired. DeMarcus Covington. What do you know? You know much about the Covingtons?
No, I do not.
He is 34. Special teams coordinator's 34. It's crazy how these guys are babies. It's not that young. I guess Covington can't run for president if he were tapped for VP at this point. So I don't know if that applies to vice president. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to put that in my pocket. But yeah, it's a rebuild, right? We're in a rebuild. The offense was horrid. The defense was good, but not good enough to make up for anything. And it was a gross season. And I don't think it really matters what went behind the scenes with Kraft and Belichick and all that. It's over, and we're moving on. And, the rebuild is something we can talk about as the season goes on and into next year. But
yeah,
as far as pricing this team for this year, I think you have two big questions, and is When do they switch from Brissett to May? And what happens with that? And do we see a drop off in the defense with Belichick gone? Like, how much is Mayo and the rest of these guys? Because they're all in-house for the most part on the defensive side. How much can those guys continue to carry the torch and get the most out of these guys, especially with, Gonzalez coming back from injury, with Judon coming back from injury, like getting back to full health? Can they at least keep that side of the ball going while they try to install this new quarterback and, have it at an above average level a year or 2 years from now, when we hopefully, if you're a Patriots fan, if you're a backer of that team, when you hopefully have, Caleb May doing something.
Drake May.
Drake May. What is it? I know that sounded
Caleb
wrong
May?
coming out. Caleb May?
Okay.
Drake May, sorry.
I think that was all very well framed. All I can add is the major problem of the end of the Belichick regime was that Belichick, the GM, finally spoiled the soup to the degree that Belichick, the coach, could not bail him out anymore.
Yeah.
Is that a fair kind of autopsy on the final chapter of Belichick in New England?
Yeah, the roster building over the last few years was odd. Like they said, they continued to find the right guys, especially in the secondary. They found some nice pieces in the first two levels as well. They coached guys up for defense, but they spent one off season spending a shitload on tight ends, and then they spend the next couple off seasons just bringing in every fringe wide receiver too that's ever played in the NFL for some reason. Never really hitting on the draft picks. Not hitting on some of the trades and free agents like they had done in the past that had made them successful. And the biggest, biggest issue, and it's so simplistic and maybe reductive to say, is just they never had the quarterback. Mac Jones never took a step forward. Bailey wasn't it. Anyone else they tried to go after, it just didn't happen. So that was huge.
With Belichick out of the league and Jones now relegated to backup, it's useless to refight this, but certainly feels like Belichick bungled the development, right? Like some of this was because he was on a trajectory to at least be a decent starter, if not, not certainly not the next Tom Brady, but at least a guy that you could be competitive with, build around on a rookie deal as a rookie. He was heavily favored for rookie of the year until Jamar Chase snatched it out of his hands. And I think really just the steps thereafter with hiring of an offensive coordinator, as you mentioned, the kind of the talent acquisition was bungled on the offensive side of the ball, and he took major regressive steps that could never be recorrected to the point of needing to draft a quarterback this year. And the cupboard is pretty bare, honestly, and that's because through the last half of the Belichick time as the GM with the Patriots, he was not great at identifying talent in the draft and really scoring anything that was, kind of long-term building block for the Patriots, which is a problem when, you're at that phase of, trying to contend where, if you hit on a couple of draft picks, if you get the next, kind of clear and obvious wide receiver one pass rusher in a given draft, you're going to extend your window to win championships. And instead it all dried on the vine. Tom Brady left and won another Super Bowl in Tampa, and the rest is history. I do think that Belichick's draft performance really from 2008 on really has a lot of questions. It's a lot of poor drafts. And his general philosophy in those drafts was let's trade down, let's take more swings. It's tough. You can't really get the top end guys. So we're just gonna get more volume here. But then I
don't think that's the wrong strategy.
Well, it's not the wrong strategy if you mix those in some years where where you want to build your depth. There are some drafts where certainly that's the right strategy. There are some drafts where it would have been nice to have some blue chip young players to help kind of keep this window open, and they never had those guys. So
I think they always felt that way about the draft, though, as a group. However you want to decide who was in power there, who was making the final decision, but they always felt like, hey, drafting is a crapshoot. Unless there's somebody we really like that's high up, we're probably wrong about him as well. We might as well just take a bunch of shots at this and hope for the best, because they had a long history of just trading back, getting more picks, taking a lot of bites at the apple, hoping for the best, and then acting aggressively in trades and free agency when there was guys that said, hey, this guy actually has a track record in the professional football league, and I would I'd like to acquire him because I know what he can do, rather than, hoping and wishing. But I know you see it every year. There's good rookies. There's great rookies. There's guys who are in the Pro Bowl their first and second years in the league. You can make it happen. But
it would be nice. It would be nice to take a top 3 quarterback talent, maybe top 2 quarterback talent in a year where there's elite quarterback talent, instead of, settling for Mac Jones, right? Like, there's definitely there's a delta there. And I guess my general point, or why I wanted to frame it that way, was I feel like the Patriots have made a decent gamble in that they're replacing the GM side of the football operations, where Belichick was meddling to the bad. And they're trying to retain what was good about Belichick in his defensive mastery. And I think we'll learn whether or not it was something unique about Belichick, or whether he passed any of that knowledge along to Mayo and company. But I think this is as good of a gamble as you were going to get, which is, at best, we get a younger version of Belichick who is going to help elevate the defense, and now we can put a general manager in charge who's going to actually get talent on the offensive side of the ball, and or just be able to navigate the draft correctly. And I think in general, this has, at least more of a likelihood than any other kind of how do you take on a post Belichick, kind of situation. Like, of all of the ways to do it, this is probably as bad as you were going to make.
So the trade-off is you got rid of the best defensive coordinator of all time.
Correct.
Probably. I mean, he was it's funny, who the last defensive coordinator for this team was?
Ooh, did he work for Pete Carroll?
It was Matt Patricia in title.
Right.
They never actually named anyone to be defensive coordinator. So,
so therein lies the other half of the bet, and whether it was right, was bringing in Belichick.
What you're saying is right, then, Drew. Like, the trade-off is, hey, he's old. We're not going to have many years of this left either way, and we're about to hit a rebuild. Do we need that, or would we rather have, a more forward-thinking GM group, front office / head coach, to help us move forward with this project? Because even if we do retain Bill, is it going to be like 10 more years of that? Maybe it's only a few, and it's weird to say that.
Well, he also was never going to give up the operation side.
Yeah, I know. It's weird to say, because I'll go down with the ship. The greatest defensive coordinator probably ever.
Period. I don't even think that's a controversial.
No, it's not. But it's just like the controversial take is, like, getting rid of him was probably good for the franchise at this point, being in the rebuild spot where they need to figure things out from a roster building and getting out of this gully standpoint.
Yeah, and I think
it's just a little gully.
Here's the question or the problem, and I guess I'm going to defend their decision regardless of whether it ends up working, because I think it's right. There's no evidence, like 0.0, that anyone could have worked for Belichick for a long period of time and gotten any kind of contact, contracted any type of the genius, right? The genius of Belichick was not contagious based on the performance of every single protege who has ever left the Belichick nest. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, Patricia's doing a lot of lifting for your argument, but rightfully so.
Romeo Cornell, you've had other people come through. Josh,
well, even on the offensive side, like
McDaniels, obviously on the offensive side.
But who's the Charlie Weiss?
Charlie Weiss, yeah. Bill O'Brien. Like, these are guys that I'm not really dying to kind of hand the keys to. And
fucked up tree.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, oh yeah,
man, genius.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about him. Yeah, like this is not a golden list, so to say.
It's funny. He didn't even spell it right, and we knew what he meant.
I knew what he meant. Yeah, man, genius. I forgot about him. What's he doing now?
Been a while.
Anyway, Mayo he's gonna have to be the first. He's going to have to be the first Belichick to disciple to prove that he learned under Bell to the degree that he could do the job somewhat similar manner. And that's a huge question mark. I will say though, that like, if you were going to, so your choices of getting a new coach after Belichick leaves are start fresh and then bring in somebody who then almost certainly is going to be living under the shadow of the former emperor, right? Like you either bring somebody in who lives under his shadow, or you bring in his protege so that you can either kind of get a free and clean break with Mayo if he's not the guy, or you still at least have a guy who won a Super Bowl in a New England, with the Patriots, and then worked under Belichick for 4 years while they had a great defense. And so I think there's, this was realistically a better path than doing clean slate and having, kind of a young offensive minded guy who was going to have to live with whatever the shadow of Belichick is. Am I crazy?
No. And it's a weird situation all around, because this is something that I've ping ponged in my head a lot. It's almost the same conversation the boring one that you'll have on First Take, and like, was it Tom or was it Bill? Like, who made this franchise? But at the same time, when you have this level of success for this long of a time, and maybe some of it was luck or just right place, right time stuff, and it just all falls together. Like, that's where I wonder, like, does Robert Kraft know what the hell he's doing, or did he just end up, getting the right cast off from Cleveland and drafting a punt in the 6th round that worked out? Won 6 Super Bowls, and just a bunch of success over the course of 15 years because of how quickly they moved on to Mayo. Like, they didn't do other interviews and stuff. They just, hey, we have our guy already. This is happening. Here it is. Like, that's what worries me a little, because like, I don't know that Robert Kraft or any of the brain trust there is actually smart.
Yeah, no. This seems like, I will tell you that what you're saying is correct.
I like what you're saying. Like, you have an out.
This seems like a decision that was made a long time ago.
No, yeah, it feels like years. Like, it was one of those. Yeah.
They're looking at this like he's the successor, right? And they didn't want Steve Belichick there long enough to where he was presumed to be the successor. I think that's probably part of the calculus why it was time for a divorce. And yeah, so now they get to retain Mayo, and I think they lucked into it, right? Maybe this is I think they get one of two good outcomes out of this, which is they learn that Mayo's not the guy, and they get a clean break from the Belichick regime in its entirety, and the next guy that comes in is not stepping into the shadow. Like, that's a good outcome. That's a fine outcome.
Yeah, if this is an abject disaster, you can call Ben Johnson.
Exactly. Like, you didn't want to bring Ben Johnson in this year and have him take, hanging his artwork in Bill's office. Right? Like, it's not a great way to. It's not ideal, right? You get one last crack at kind of retaining the Patriot way by keeping Mayo on board, giving him a real GM who's going to presumably find talent and trying to bounce back. The bad thing is you're in a terrible, terrible situation in a very competitive AFC with virtually no talent on this roster. So you're kind of fucked for now, right? But anything, the expectations are so low that it's going to be tough for Mayo to prove that he doesn't deserve another year, right?
That's the thing. Like, going in with a bridge quarterback and a rookie, it's hard to fuck it up bad enough. Like, you have to have like a mutiny where the team is like, legitimately, that's a big storyline come week 8. Hey, has Mayo lost the locker room? And one of the veterans actually like says something, or there's like a cryptic Instagram post from one of the cornerbacks about how much he hates it here because of the coach. Like, really would have to do it up proper to get shit canned the first year, because like you said, of that, you have that get out of jail free card of like, hey, this is our offense, guys. What would you expect? Yeah, we scored like 150 points. Them's the breaks, I guess. I think as long as he's still, still the detail, or if the defense is still up to muster, and we see improvement here, and they get anything out of Drake May. It's awful hard to move on.
Up to mustard or up to mayo? That's the key question. Anyway, the general vibes around the Patriots are very low expectations, but I think excitement about what they got in the draft as far as Drake May goes, as potential. The problem is there's no talent here, so the chances of an Arrested Development year are quite high.
Yeah, we know. I know a lot of people in Boston, or talked to a lot of people. There's been some really good comments in the YouTube over the last, especially the ones last week where I didn't really get to read them until today. But some good comments in the YouTube. Like, if you're a Patriots fan, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on just how long it's going to take to pull out of this.
Hey, Celtics just won the title. They're going to win another title. You guys can chill the fuck out.
Yeah, obviously, like, so much depends on Drake. Like, if he's good, this is a quick path. If not, then maybe 3 or 4 year kind of rebuild sort of thing, and you got to figure something out. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I don't want to dwell too much on last season.
No, I got nothing.
It was a really good defense, really good secondary.
Ninth by DVOA.
Yeah, I know, but considering how much they lost from probably what was going to be the defensive rookie of the year. Not probably. I mean, it was like a good 3-horse race, but he was very much in it. And Christian's
he was. I agree with that.
And Judon's very good. Missing time from those guys and still maintaining a top 10 defense was impressive. It's a good team. It's a good defense. I still think it can be a top 10 defense this year. In fact, I have it rated so as. Honestly, there's not a big difference between last year and this year. It's basically like, unless you think Brissett's going to be magic or something they did, there's not a lot that's changed for me as far as how I would rate this team at the end of last year and how I'm rating them now.
I 100% agree with that.
Obviously the coaching takes a big hit, and that's about it.
I mean, you could downgrade the offense a little bit if you wanted to. Some offensive line doesn't look like they solved any problems there.
There wasn't a lot of room to go down, though, Drew. That's what I'm saying. We're pretty low numbers.
Pretty low number. It could be going down. Skill position group, you can go down too. I mean, I don't know that I would qualify any of the moves they made as upgrades, and I don't know that I see any of the guys they've drafted as true breakouts last year or this year.
I mean, just quick additions. Like we said, they brought in Brissett. They drafted Drake May. They did draft a couple of receivers. If you were 2 online, you're getting a lot of Javon Baker content. He's catching everything. He wasn't even their highest picked wide receiver. Jalen Polk was in the 2nd round. They did draft some help at offensive tackle in Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson. But the ones they lost, they're just funny outside of Trent Brown. Like Trent Brown, J.C. Jackson, maybe Jalen Mills, but it's like you lost Mac Jones, you lost Ezekiel Elliott, you lost Mike Gesicki. I think a lot of the additions they made kind of put it as a wash for that. Like, you brought in KJ Osborne, another instance of like, hey, this guy is just a borderline wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Antonio Gibson, bring him in because you need somebody to catch passes out of the backfield. Like, it's a bunch of, hey, we tried, but we couldn't do too much. We didn't have the resources. We had to take most of our draft capital and put it into one guy. Such is life. So I don't have big changes from last year.
No, I really don't either. Which takes us right to the meat of the question. What is your rating for QBOC? And while you give me that number, explain to me what you expect out of Alex Van Pelt and what your best guess is as to the distribution of number of games started for Brissett versus May.
I went back and forth between a 2 and 2.5 here. I ended up on 2. Brissett's a career backup, and even if you have a good rating on him, I'm assuming almost 100% he's starting this season. That's kind of what's been said. Things could happen in preseason, or maybe he gets hurt and we end up with a rookie. But it's not great, and I didn't read a lot that had me super excited for Alex Van Pelt either. Basically, just like the Browns.
Really?
Yeah, they were fast. Brissett has worked with him in the past. It was one of his better seasons, So I left it low with room to improve if we see, you know. So here's the thing. Someone wrote this, and I believe it's from Football Outsiders. The Browns took 1,187 snaps, more than any team in the league, and they checked in at 26.1 seconds per snap, seventh fastest. If you have a shitty-ass offense with a shitty quarterback or a rookie quarterback, are you really that excited about being a team that's going no huddle more than anyone? Are you excited about being fast? Do you want your offense going 3 and out quicker than normal? I don't know. Like, they did point out later, like, you know, Nick Chubb being hurt probably changed the outlook of how that offense is going to be run. And at the same time, he didn't call plays.
Yeah.
The only time he really called plays was when Stefanski had COVID. If you remember that horrible, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, playoff game where the first score was like was it over his head or through his legs? The snap, over his head. I think it was over his head, and suddenly it's 28-0. That's an Alex Van Pelt masterpiece right there. Otherwise, he hasn't really called plays, so I don't have much benefit of doubt to give him. I don't have a high grading on Brissett. Obviously, he's a backup. I don't have a high grade on anything here, and yeah, it's going to start low. So
okay,
we're at a 2.
I'm higher than you. I will tell you that I like this situation better than Washington. I don't like, I mean, I have higher hopes for Van Pelt.
I have Washington at a 2.5. I kept looking at Tennessee and Washington, but like, man, am I really lower than them?
Okay, two other kind of general thoughts. I don't know that Alex Van Pelt is the long-term guy. I don't love having him as the steward of the development of May. I think that's potentially not going to work. And I don't know that you had any better options because, again, like every connection to the Belichick tree that does offensive stuff is pretty poisoned. But, you know, and there are probably some things about what Van Pelt does. And I guess when I think of Stefanski, I think a guy that leans pretty hard into play action and a guy that has really not figured out motion concepts yet. And the fact that you were the OC and you were probably the guy that was in charge of coming up with new stuff, motion concepts, and what is everybody else doing that's working right now, and how can we implement that into our game? And you didn't, has me a little concerned that you're behind the 8 ball in terms of sort of the future of offense in the NFL. And so,
somebody did describe it as West Coast-ish is what they're expecting from him based on his influences and what he brought to the table. I think it's super hard to guess until we actually see some of it and hear some more quotes. It was tough digging into him. Didn't get a lot. It's like, hey, he was with this team and then they fired everybody. He was with this team and then they fired everybody. One vote of confidence I wasn't super excited about. If you remember this, might even been like early when he was doing McAfee, but Aaron Rodgers was like pissed when they didn't retain him as his quarterback coach. Like, he did an interview after the year and he's like, didn't keep my quarterback coach. That kind of sucks. Like, he just kind of came out and bitched about it on something in an interview he got. So I honestly, at this point in my life, I'm not treating an Aaron Rodgers vote of confidence as something good. His judgment is impaired at this point.
Okay. So optimal number. Okay. Give me 2 numbers. Likely number of games Drake May starts for the Patriots in 2024. Optimal number of games for him to start for his development.
I'm bringing the schedule up early.
Okay.
Okay. But like, just where is your spot to insert him?
Versus Miami week 5.
Like, yeah. You got Houston with Houston.
I'd rather avoid him facing the Jets twice, personally.
Look, I mean, just look at Houston, Jacksonville Jets pass rush. Honestly, I like Tennessee's pass rush. I like Chicago's pass rush. There's a bunch of really tough pass rushes he's going to go against. I'd say just wherever. Like, there's not some sweet spot. You have a late bye, so you don't have that. If you only want to play
2 of your last 3 games against Buffalo.
Yeah, I think it just whenever you think he's ready, just say fuck it, rip the Band-Aid off, and don't make it San Francisco.
Okay, so there's not a natural insertion spot, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one.
Okay. What is the optimal spot, number of games he starts this year for his own development purposes?
17.
Whoa. Oh,
He's played,
do we disagree?
This isn't Mitch Trubisky where he's played like 10 games in college. He's played some ball. Just throw him out there.
You want to see him go?
I just want to see him. I don't give a shit at this point.
Okay. And you're not worried about rat fucking his confidence by just getting with no one's open. Pass rush is down his throat constantly. If you
you're going to be a top end quarterback,
if you squint hard enough, doesn't it look like 2023 Panthers?
Yeah, but he's not, 5'1", and maybe bad. And that's the thing. I don't believe in that. I'm going to push back in the rat fucking the confidence.
Okay,
I believe it's an industry term. If you are a quarterback, a starting quarterback in the NFL, if that's your ceiling and you plan on being a good one, there's nothing that can rat fuck your confidence. If a few bad games as a rookie does that, it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be. Okay.
Like Peyton Manning had a horrible rookie season, but
there were highs.
I
don't know how
he threw like 40 interceptions.
Like 28.
It was bad. I mean, and such is life. But like honestly, I think I'm kind of in jest of the 17. Like I'd like to see 13 plus.
Okay.
I'm fine with the bridge quarterback, getting him used to the preparation for games, getting him used to the ebb and flow of the NFL season, and then just throwing him in maybe after the Niners game.
Okay.
I wouldn't. The more, the better, I think.
Okay. You don't want a Jordan Love-esque opportunity to really learn the game at the pro level.
I don't think you have an Aaron Rodgers and
Jacoby you don't. Brissett, but Jacoby Brissett, I think, gives you closer to league average expectation as far as quarterback performance goes. And I think I'm expecting half of a season for Brissett, maybe more. Because again, like if he's competitive, if he looks like he knows what he's doing, and if he's competing in that first quarter of the season, I'm not sure you really pull the rug on him, even if Drake May looks good in practice. Because there's no rush. Like. You know what I guess maybe this is flying in the face of what I'm saying, but like I don't mind having a competitive product out there and trying to kind of build some of your younger offensive linemen and some of your younger skill position guys with a Brissett this year and losing and then having a high pick next year to get an elite wideout, an elite lifetime tackle for him. Like there's so many holes that are clear and obvious that are going to need to be addressed in next year's draft. And you're better off like having a quarterback who knows what he's doing this year, running the ship, so that you can develop maybe some of these pieces on the O-line and in your wide receiver group. So you have a wide receiver 2 and 3 when you go draft your wide receiver 1, so that you have a tackle and a guard on the right side, so you can go tackle, get a tackle for the left side.
When it's hard to say. Like when I did my number, I assume this many games and this many games for Brissett and this many games for May, because my number is Jacoby Brissett. This number. No. You know what I mean? Like this number means what should the price for this team be
week 1
going into week 1?
Okay.
And I'm probably a little low because Brissett had some good numbers with the Browns with this Van Pelt a couple of years ago. So I'm willing to upgrade a little. I think maybe I was a little hard on them.
So I'm at a 3 years too. We'll carry on.
I'm going to upgrade to a 2.5 year live in the air.
2.5. Okay.
Just looking at some of Brissett's numbers, I'm willing to give him a little more benefit.
Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Skill group 1, 2. 2. Okay. I'm at a 1. This is the worst. This is one of the worst skill groups I've ever seen assembled.
I think I don't have a lower one yet. My lowest one outside of this, I had Carolina as a 4, Jacksonville is a 4, the Giants were a 3, and again that can go up because they have a fun rookie. Washington was a 4, so 2 is my lowest. It is bad. Like I said, what we joked about the wide receiver 2s. There's a lot more wide receiver 3s. Bourne was good. But he tore his ACL.
Yeah, he gonna play?
Assuming he's going to be 100% is probably folly. Osborne's the other side. We've never really. Osborne could be a surprise. It could be one of those where, people said that is he getting the opportunities? Well, go look at his numbers when Justin Jefferson was out. It wasn't, spectacular. I think he's fine, But you don't have a wide receiver one. You got Mario Douglas in the slot. Then you have these rookies. And this number goes up if Javon Baker or Jalen Polk?
Sure.
If those guys hit at all, this number probably goes up.
It could be Jalen, like Jalen.
I think I'm going to go with Jalen.
Okay.
There's upside, especially in that Baker pick. There's upside there for those guys. But ultimately, yeah, it's the worst receiver room I think I had. And a lot of the reason I'm at a 2 rather than just down at 1.5, I think Ramondre Stevenson's good. I like them. And he's not, I don't think he's like bell cow good, but he's above average. Especially when you mix him with Antonio Gibson, because he kind of complements him as a nice pass catcher. So it's like, I'm not saying this is a good running back room, but if it's below average, slightly below average, it brings the curve up for skill position group a little. And then I don't know what I had for tight end. Hunter Henry's good, not great. They drafted Jaheim Bell from Florida State. That was a nice one because they got him pretty late too. So that's more of a Hunter Henry's like 30 now. We got to replace him eventually. So decent tight end, decent running back room, horrific wide receiver room with rookie upside is a 2.
Okay. You're being more kind to a lot of these guys than I was. Ramondre Stevenson, not above average for me. I did not like his step backwards last year. I know it's not his fault, and there's a lot of other things you can point to, but he's never been a high usage, high production guy, as far as I can tell you. And it's only his 4th season.
That's right. I don't mind him with Gibson. Like if it was him and somebody else who's not going to play much, they'd expect 3 downs out of Ramondre. I think that'd be foolish. But him and Gibson as a duo, it's like a 4.
You have a guess as to where he lands in like rushing yards over expectation or anything like that? I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I did scrape those at one point and
he's like a 4-yard per carry guy, though. I mean, he's okay.
All right. Well, I'm at a 1. I don't know that I've seen a less upside group in a long time. If I upgrade them to 2 or 3 during the course of the season, that feels generous. But I do not have high hopes for this group whatsoever. O-line.
A 2. A lot of low numbers here.
I'm at a 2 as well.
This is
rough.
So this is ugly too. So we're looking like a Cora 4 at left tackle as your replacement. He was benched. He was benched last year. So there's a decent chance that your 3rd round rookie, Caden Wallace, could end up there. Although at the same time, both Caden Wallace and Okorafor are right tackles. So you have a benched guy and a rookie who are both right tackles vying for the left tackle job. Cole Strange, who's a decent player at left guard, is not likely to start the season with his knee injury. I don't know. We'll get more updates on that. That would help. They've been doing City So at left guard, who's actually probably your right guard for the most part when Strange comes back. So they've had to switch a guard over. And if City So is over there, then you're looking at your right tackle moving into right guard, Michael Onwenu, who's a decent right tackle, but you're probably going to have to play him at guard right now. And then Calvin Johnson, who almost died of malaria last year, as your right tackle. They've been moving around a lot in camp. Wolf is pretty confident that basically like any of these guys could go play left tackle, even though they're not left tackles. But overall, it's like, hey, David Andrews, you're a decent center. And the rest of it is very, very much in flux with possibly 2 rookies starting. And not only that, but the thing I hate the most about a bad offensive line is looks like we're already setting it up for a lack of continuity with guys moving around, possible switcheroos at left tackle, which is not great for a quarterback. He did almost die of malaria. I've forgotten about that when I was looking that up.
Yeah.
I'm like, they gave him like 50-50 when because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. So I'm glad he lived. But it's a bad run blocking unit. Even when Trent was in the lineup, the pass pro was not great from a time to pressure standpoint, even though some of the guys had some okay individual grades. Overall, bad offensive grades here, guys.
I can't add anything. I think 2 is completely fair, and I think the expectations are reasonably low. Because you look down the depth chart, and there's not even any guys who you're like, well, maybe, maybe. But like honestly, like a good success for this team this year is you have developed Jalen Polk into a serviceable wide receiver 2 for next year. And you've developed Javon Baker into a serviceable wide receiver 3 for next year. And you've developed Caden Wallace into a serviceable right tackle for the future. And Layden Robinson can go in your right guard slot instead of having City Sow out there. And Cole Strange wasn't a wasted pick for whatever reason, although that's looking very unlikely. And, I think if you can get serviceable play out of those young players so that you don't have to replace them in free agency or the draft, then that gives you a better opportunity.
Continuity into 25. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Which is why I think it's important to probably stick with Brissett for as long as possible, even though I agree with you. Like, there's no real good reason to keep May on the bench if he's ready to go. So we'll see.
The best reason to keep May on the bench is if Brissett is sacked like 9 times in the first game because of the miscommunications with this. It sounds like what do they call it? The mini camp or like the first OTAs or something. It sounds like things weren't going well from the get-go. Nothing's gone well with this line. So this is a 2, and it was a bit of a stretch. Like I gave Onwenu and Andrews pretty decent grades. The rest of it's pretty ugly.
Okay, so I have a 23rd percentile offense for the Patriots. This is the lowest of every offense in the entire NFL. And I would honestly, if you told me they finish outside of the top 5 in DVOA, I'm floored. I'm like, what? I'm literally asking questions about what happened. Oh, so Kendrick Bourne was 100% ready to go on day 1.
Yeah, like Javon Baker has to
be. Yeah,
one of those wide receivers has to be like early, like we're talking week 4, and they're in the top 5 for rookie of the year price. Like, oh, that guy, him and Brissett they found it. Like something crazy has to happen for the offense to make a leap out of the deep in the base maker. I'm right there. I'm like 22.5 on the offense.
Okay. Defense run stop grade for you.
So I had good grades on the defense.
I do too.
This is the thing we talked about before we get to this is the same thing I talked about earlier. It's like I left these high and I made the assumption that we see some, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Leftovers from Bill's influence. Like they're able to keep that rolling.
Of course.
And it doesn't just instantly, because I don't think things take this instant step back. And like you said, if we get Christian Gonzalez and Judon and everybody's healthy, and Barmore and like everything.
You worried about Barmore blood clot thing?
That was the other thing too. That was just this week. It feels like it's July and they should be able to get it under control. It'll
be all right. Okay.
It seems like precautionary, like, hey, he's having blood clots.
Judon's contract gets worked out.
Yeah, Judon, that's the thing. Like Barmore and Judon are 2 important pieces up in the front 7, and one's not playing and the other one's in the hospital. So we do need some of that stuff to sort itself out. But run stop, I ended up with a 7.5.
Ooh, that's high. I'm 6.5, and I thought I was going to be high. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely in the top 10 for run stop rate. Like, not only that, but all 3 levels. Like, I had people rated pretty well at all 3 levels, especially your safeties.
Yeah.
I actually had both teams were going to do today, so I had a nice high grade for this.
Their defense was number 2 in EPA per rush allowed last year. They were very, very good.
There's some context to
no one needed to,
the type of
everyone needed to try to run on them at the end of games, though.
But at the same time, no, I mean, like you're saying, it wasn't the kind of runs you're facing against a first quarter scripted offense. It's the kind of runs you're facing against a team that's up by 15, late kind of thing. Right. But it's still, they rated out well. They rated out well outside of garbage time. And like I said, I'm Barmore, Godshaw, Devon, Godshaw, Peppers, Duggar. I had a bunch of guys who rated pretty well against the run.
Yeah, let's take first and second downs. Anything better than 20% win probability. They were incredible.
And running backs.
Incredible defense last year. Yeah, run stop was excellent. So maybe I'm low. Yeah, that's possible.
I was surprised they had it this high because it wasn't like, when you think good run stop, you think Vita Vea, you think Pat Williams,
Yeah,
you think
sure.
These huge freaking God, who was the Patriots guy from years ago? The picture
Vince Wilfork.
Vince Wilfork. You think this huge guy who eats up double teams, but sometimes it's just a sum of the parts, and having safeties who aren't afraid to get down in the box and Jesus Christ, just sniff around down in the box. Now it's getting X-rated in here, but like I said, if you have good safety help and everybody, the biggest thing for run stop, honestly, and it's so stupid because again, reductive, simplistic, but hey, Bill Belichick makes guys work on tackling and fundamentals. Like Patriots don't miss tackles. That's just like missed tackle rates on runs. It's very good.
Yeah. Okay. Pass rush.
No,
I'm only 5 here.
I'm a 6.5.
Okay. Wow, you're gonna have a banging.
I know, and it's still like the 29th rated team because the offense is so low. Pass rush, like you said, Barmore. I'm expecting further things out of him. I'm expecting a full year of Judon. And
Judon's good. Keon White is good. Godshot and Barmore. You can get interior pressure with those guys. You're not going to have to blitz much. This is a good unit, but it's not better than average from what I can tell you. We'll see. They don't have a standard
for Uche.
I have him as a small contribution at this point. I don't know why.
I have him above average. I was gonna say inside is fine.
He's slipped down
Armor's
the chart
good.
for some reason. I can't explain it.
I think it's gonna be rotational.
Okay.
Jawan Bentley, that's more of my run stop guy.
Yeah, he's a run stop guy.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a little higher.
Okay. Coverage?
Coverage is 7.
Oh, 7. We agree. Okay, you're at 70th percentile defense. This is by far the best defense we've talked about on this show. For you.
I was gonna say it's funny. Like this is the worst.
We agree, by the way. This is the best defense we've talked about for me too. But I'm only a 62nd percentile. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good pass defense.
It better be.
You get Gonzalez back. Like the trajectory was on. I already talked about Duggar and Peppers as far as run stop.
Good.
I mean, they rate out well everywhere, especially Peppers. Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones.
Good.
Your slot guy.
You don't have an elite shutdown guy unless Christian Gonzalez becomes that guy, which he could.
Yeah, but I think it's not even the best outside cornerback duo we're going to talk about today. But Gonzalez, if he can get back to the level he was at pre-injury, and Jonathan Jones is very above average, and your safety tandem is very above average, it's just not going to be, it's not the best secondary we have, but it's 70th percentile for me based on everything. And then, Marcus Jones is your nickel.
Okay.
Depth. The only problem is the depth is not great in the secondary.
Okay. Yeah, injuries could be a problem. I agree. What do you make of the special teamies?
Special teams is not good.
Jeremy Springer, special teams coach.
This is
Joey Sly.
2.5.
Joey Sly is kicking for these guys. Joey Sly, did you know that?
So he might not. He might be. They're having competition. They had a rookie last year, Chad Ryland. He only hit 64% of his field goals last year, which is pretty bad. He missed half his attempts, between 40 and 49. He missed an extra point even. So not good. He missed a bunch. Punter is meh. Rager is actually okay as a returner. But the kick return defense and a couple other things have had this pretty low. So it's a bad kicker who's in a competition with another bad kicker and an okay punter. So I'm at a 2.5 here. It's one of the worst ones.
Wow. You're doing your boy Joey Sly dirty.
And you have a new special teams coach.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Andy was Joey Sly's social media manager years ago. He ran the Joey Sly Twitter account. Yeah. All right.
I never got in trouble, but I did get like an email like, "Hey, we've shut this account down because it's guilty of impersonating someone." because I was starting to get tagged and stuff because he didn't have Twitter.
All right. Intangibles?
3.5.
That's a very good number. Not a lot of positive expectations about these guys being able to pick up the,
pick up the torch,
pick up the free stuff. Yeah. Okay. So you're at the 34th percentile for the Patriots broadly. I'm at the 32nd percentile, which means you have them as a 5.5 point dog to an average team on a neutral field. I have had them as a 6-point dog.
I have a couple teams that are worse than this. Then so far, Washington.
One of them that plays them on a neutral, right? No,
Washington and the Giants. Teams that we've gone through so far: Carolina, Washington, and the New York Giants. I have rated below the Patriots right now, but I will tell you, there's not like huge gaps there.
Okay, let's look at the schedule. We can be pretty quick here, I think, because we need to move on.
They're a dog.
Purpose of time.
Yeah,
they're a dog in every game.
Oh, I forgot we spent 10 minutes on the Olympics. Like, an hour on the Patriots.
Their chances to get wins will be hosting Seattle week 2, where they are expected to be 2.5-point dogs. At Tennessee week 9, where they're expected to be 2.5-point dogs. Okay, we'll see about that. Hosting Indianapolis week 13, where they are 2-point dogs. And hosting the Chargers week 17, where they're 2.5-point dogs. Every other game on the schedule, they are outside of a field goal in terms of expectation, which would say that there is no other game on their schedule besides the 4 that were just mentioned, where they have a better than 39% win expectancy. That is bad. They have only rest advantages somehow. They're only playing teams where they have a rest advantage against them. It's only in 4 games, and it's pretty small ones, and they come against San Francisco and the Rams, so that does nothing for me. So not really going to help having rest advantage, I wouldn't think, unless maybe that helps you cover, I guess. Travel disadvantages all throughout the middle of the season because they elected not to take their bye after going to London to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that is the dreaded spot where the Patriots fly to London to play a 9 a.m. game against a team that has had an entire week to adjust to the time change. Anything else you want to point out?
No, not really. There's some pretty big beatdown spots here. You look at it, teams that have, anywhere where you go strength on strength, where these teams with good offenses are facing the Patriots on the road, or where the good offense is at home, but they have a defense that can put it on them.
Okay.
We're only like you said, that Tennessee thing. Some
twice.
Of these spots where I have the defenses a little higher than market, like Tennessee, like maybe Miami. Some of those spots, I think I'll probably be fading the Patriots, even if they are hosting. We have 3 of the first 4 games on the road
for taking the points. What's the week? What's the blueprint of a team? The Patriots. You're intrigued by the points. You want it to be at home?
Maybe Chicago.
Okay. You want to be against a young quarterback who's up against the defense that
I was going to say a young quarterback, coaching staff maybe I don't trust a lot. So, as I just say, like I like Tennessee. With kind of the same boat there, but maybe Chicago, if Chicago's laying more points than that. If that gets up to like 6 because Caleb's playing well, I think I could take some points there.
There's a lot of good quarterbacks on this.
Yeah, I was going to say,
man, they don't come up for air at all.
Burrow, Gino, Rodgers, Purdy, Tua, CJ, Trevor, Rodgers, Levis. Levis is your respite. You're in November. You're in November at that point, guys. And then you do get Levis and a rookie. Then you go right back to Stafford, to Anthony Richardson if he's still alive and ticking at that point, and then finally a bye. And honestly, Arizona's a bit of a joke the last few years, but it's still a good quarterback in Kyler Murray. You go Murray, Allen, Herbert, Allen to close the season. Peace.
Yeah,
not a great sketch.
Really good quarterbacks up and down. Jeez, it's gonna be tough.
Patriots. My 27th ranked team. 28th, maybe. I'll have to look.
Okay.
Final thoughts?
I haven't decided exactly what the right rubric is for backing them as dogs. And I'll actually, one final thought is if they don't win that game, week 2, hosting Seattle, their first win is November.
Maybe. I mean, yeah.
Last winless team. This is probably your favorite for last winless team.
Every year. We had a bad Jets team beat a pretty good Bills team. Like something weird happens every year, but yeah, it could be November.
A Patriots win means they held their opponents to 13 points
or less. Yeah,
or fewer.
I think that was
okay. Okay.
Not only exactly 13 points. 12. That's probably a loss.
Fewer than 13. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Good luck, guys. Best of luck.
And for anybody, for the sake of ease for processing and whatnot, we are going to shut this down. We'll pop up on the same YouTube channel in like 2 minutes with the Dolphins guys. Makes it easier for editing. See you in a few. I kind of want to end it early, but I like the music.